guys, welcome to another episode of Just Fix It. I'm your mechanic Brandon, and today we have got a 2006 Chevy Impala that we're going to be putting one of these on. Yes, a wheel bearing. So, before we get started, make sure you click that subscribe button, help a brother out. This will also work on pretty much all of GM's hub bearings. They're all pretty much the same. So if you don't have a 2006 or whatever, it's all the same. So what you're going to want to do first is you're going to want to take this Torx bit screw out to take your rotor off. But before you do that, you're going to want to take off your caliper bracket bolts, which is this bolt here and this guy right here. To take these brakes off, then you can just take the whole caliper and bracket off and set it like up here somewhere so you don't stress this hose. After you get the brakes off, you're going to want to take this big bolt off, which is a 34 millimeter socket size, and you're going to want to take your ABS wire out. So it's just one little clip, pulls out. And once you get the nut off, you take your air hammer and push that CV shaft back a little bit, just so you can get a socket in. To take off these bolts here. To get these bolts off back here in the back, you're going to need a wobble socket like this, and there's 3 bolts, one here, one on top, and one on the other side. They're a 13 millimeter socket, and you can rip all 3 of those out. Once you get them out, you're going to want to start the 2 side bolts, the easiest ones to get to, so they got a gap in them about that far, and you're going to take your air hammer and hit on those bolts to press this bearing out of the hub. That's the easiest way I've found to take them out. But you can take a chisel and go in here and try wedging it out, but it's a pain in the butt. And I like to use one of these little hammer bit things because it fits in there so nicely and it doesn't wreck your bolt, and it's easy to stay on there. You punched it out a little bit. See how you got a little bit of movement? You just need those bolts just to push it out a little bit, and then you can take the bolts the rest of the way out, and then you're going to want to hit on the back side of here, and the bearing should just pull right out. Now that we got it out like this, now what we're going to do is take our air hammer again, pull back really hard with our fingers, and take the air hammer and hit that so it'll push that shaft out the rest of the way. Most of the time these bearings come out in half, so make sure you take this piece out, otherwise you're going to have nothing but problems. And pull your wire out. And then once we get that out, we can look at this mounting surface for the new bearing, and you're going to want to take some emery cloth or a screwdriver or a file or something and get all those boogers out of there, because it'll make your life easier. And then before we put the new bearing in, we're going to want to put anti-seize in here, so if you ever got to replace the bearing again, it gives you a fighting chance. Then you're going to want to put your dust shield on your wheel bearing like this and feed this wire up through here, and try not to wreck it. It's kind of hard to get it in there while holding the bearing at the same time, but be very gentle with that, because if you break that sensor off, then you got to buy a new wheel bearing. But another thing is, make sure you put anti-seize on this shaft so it'll come out easier if you ever got to do anything with the axle shaft or whatever. Once you got it in the hole and the wires not caught on anything, you can put the bolts back in and zip them all back up, but zip them up evenly. So start here, go over here, go to the middle, just go around a couple times, and so it all presses in evenly so it's not cocked in there. Now you can plug in your ABS wire, plug that in, snap it in a little snap, and then you can run this nut up and make sure you torque it. The torque spec is 205 foot-pounds. If you don't torque it to the right torque, you will wear that bearing out quicker than normal. Now you can put your rotor on, put your little bolt back in that hole, and stick the caliper and the bracket back on. Tighten them up, and there you go. That is how you replace a wheel bearing. Hope that helped you, and catch you next time. That's all from me. See you next week.